Hello, everyone, again. I'm Rob Kosick, your host of Money Talks.
With the Wealth Whisperer.
Welcome back. Yeah, we've had a number of these episodes where we take on topics and we try to provide education to allow you, the public, and our audience to be able to make sound and quality decisions. My guest today is Brad Cunningham. Brad Cunningham is the owner of Orange Financial, an institution that I believe probably coming up on 20 years has been in business.
Just 20 years this year.
Yeah, it's about the time that Brad and I had actually met. And Orange Financial specializes in everything protection. So insurance there's just a wide range thereof. And I've found my time with Brad to be incredibly educational, and that's why I thought it'd be very helpful for our audience to get to hear you talk a little bit about what it is that you do.
Thank you for inviting me in today.
All right. Got some questions.
It's all right.
I want to make sure that you're ready for it. All right, Bradley. Okay. So we are going to talk about insurance today.
Yep.
There's a plethora of different types of insurance.
It's a ton.
What I've been extremely impressed with you over the years is the fact that you specialize in what it is that you know. You outsource and work with other professionals that can provide support to your clients in other areas. But in the insurance arena, there is a lot of different things of which people need to consider and how they're going to go about protecting themselves. So the first question that I have for you today is, being a strong advocate for insurance for your clients, does this mean that all insurance is worth it? Which insurances do you believe are valuable compared to those that maybe you find less value in?
It's a great question. There are a lot of insurances that are out there, as we know. In my head, I break them down into two parts. I will refer to one section, which I think encompasses most insurances in I call it the self-insure world, where you could roll the dice and skip.
Okay.
Examples of insurances that I think fall on that side would be, do I take the dental insurance? Do I take vision insurance? Do I get insurance for my dog and do pet insurance? Do I get the short-term disability insurance? They might be good price points, and it might be affected based on your unique situation to acquire those, because it makes sense to put dollars into those things where the value that I receive is worthwhile. But could I just as easily roll the dice and skip it? I think with a lot of those insurances, you could. If you abide by a concept of maintaining a strong level of liquidity, you can deal with an event that comes up in that space just with cash in the bank. The other area that I think is more important to focus on, and I do believe strongly in insurance, is more on the catastrophic space. And I really break those down into four key components: medical insurance, umbrella insurance in the event of a lawsuit, disability insurance, and specifically with disability insurance, long-term disability more so than short-term disability. And then depending on your unique situation with the level of dependency, if there is dependency, those that are relying upon you would be with life insurance. And so I really stick to those four key ones as being insurances that I think, depending on your unique situation, are insurances that you should consider putting in place.
Okay. So I'm going to swap out some of the questions because actually you have led us directly into something that I wanted to talk more about. And here's how I was going to phrase it. I personally buy almost every policy for me as a catastrophic policy. And so how I sort of headlined it and led to this is that I've been in the financial services industry for 30 years and I built my own thoughts and beliefs.
Yep.
But to what you're saying, what I have found is so many individuals personalize how they feel about insurance. Okay. And so I found that very helpful, that in conversations where I learn what kind of insurances people have, certainly if it's somebody that you and I have worked together with, I see, okay, this person has very different insurance than that person. And so what Bradley has done is he's really personalized it. But like I said, for myself, I think of insurance as that's a catastrophic concern. If it's not a catastrophic concern, I'll take that risk myself.
Right.
Financially. I agree. Okay. And so one thing which I throw out there, which we're not going to discuss today, and I don't think I would have a podcast on the subject, is this is potentially somewhat timely from the United Healthcare CEO and some of the things that may not be perfect with our health insurance. But since it's going to lead into the question, I just say, I think about Obamacare. And when I originally heard about it many years ago, I was like, oh, this could potentially work. I was thinking that maybe they were thinking about making catastrophic health insurance mandatory and then having it potentially be funded for the very poor. And that's just something I want you all to think about there in podcast land. What if Obamacare was made mandatory health insurance, the government covered? Wow. Would the inflation that we're currently experiencing be what it is on healthcare? I'm going to say it would not. But like I said, another whole topic. All right. Back to my question.
Okay.
As it pertains to insurance outside of healthcare, which have you seen examples where clients would have been otherwise devastated if not? So what I'm doing is yes, we have just discussed that maybe you and I have similar beliefs, and I was not even familiar. And once again, though, it's very telling to who you are in that I have seen people. And so obviously what you're doing is you're personalizing. You may have some people that know, I don't want to keep that risk to myself. I'd like to transfer that risk, even if it's not a catastrophic risk. But I would like to talk about catastrophic risk, but what you've done for a living. What have been some instances where you're like, I'm extremely happy what it is I do for a living because I've made such a difference in these people's lives because the devastation financially that they would have experienced if it was not for. So I want to open this discussion a little bit through multiple insurances. Like you said, I'm just going to repeat one that you said that I didn't even have within here, but I've become familiar with it, is umbrella insurance.
Yeah.
Not everybody out listening today is going to even know what umbrella insurance is. Do you want to give a little bit of a brief definition and then maybe an example of what could devastate a family if they did not have umbrella insurance?
Sure. It's a simple policy you acquire through your property and casualty insurer. And when you acquire this, with the insurance companies, they're going to essentially require that you maintain your auto and homeowners. If let's use that as an example, you're going to get that through the same company. You're not going to go out and shop that out and get the umbrella from ABC Insurance Company when you carry XYZ on the other. But they all have liability limits. Most insurance companies will have limitations or caps, liability limits on your auto and homeowners insurance. And those, in most cases, in an auto accident, a fender bender, that is more than adequate to cover for that situation. It is the rare anomaly of a situation where you're involved in an accident and the damage is not to the other vehicle, let's use that as the example, or a problem, because your coverage generally is going to cover for that. It's the individual in that car that might be significantly hurt, become disabled, massive medical bills. Well, let's just say the unfortunate circumstance where that person actually dies. Someone's likely suing as a result.
Okay.
And what the umbrella is designed to do is it's just a big old chunk of liability protection that layers on top of your liability limits that are carried on your underlying levels. And so if you're faced with that lawsuit, first of all, you feel horrible about the accident. You didn't mean to hurt the person, just wrong place, wrong time. But now you're dealing with the after effects of someone coming after you in litigation. And that umbrella policy is designed to provide a big chunk of capital to either pay off or mitigate that risk of them coming in, penetrating, getting into your assets that they can attach to, or even potentially pushing for a garnishment of wages. That's a simple example why I go back to the catastrophic insurance. It is so significant of an impact that it's like, oh, the couple $100 I'll spend a year to have that umbrella policy is a drop in the bucket compared to the alternative of me not having that in place in that situation. Right?
Makes perfect sense. Disability. I've seen some examples where, let me just say, it's been 30 some odd years. I've seen a lot more examples where disability was meaningful to maybe some other insurances than I would have expected to be the case.
I agree. And I think we've had quite a few situations with our clientele where, even mutual clients that we've worked with that had dealt with a disability. I go back to that difference between self-insured and catastrophic. The short-term disability is something I think you could roll the dice on. You can have enough in cash to absorb for being out of work for a couple of weeks or even a couple of months. But if I'm out for months to years or permanently never able to get back, I lost the income. The machine is shut down. And if I'm early on in my career and I have not built up my assets enough, then I could be in a position where that is a game changer. That derails me from my game plan. I'm now on a different pathway. The situations I was mentioning on the disability, we've had clients within our community that had been in accidents. They have had aneurysms. They've had cancers. They've had situations come up, and we all as human beings, I think, like to think we're invincible, and I'm not doing anything drastic. I've had clients tell me I'm not doing anything crazy. I don't mountain climb, I don't rock climb, I don't jump out of airplanes. And I'm like, that statistically, the odds of that happening are not what we're worried about. It's other just lifestyle stuff that happens. And fortunately, we've been in a position where clients that have had it protected and had been able to maintain that pathway on that road, and others, unfortunately, that have felt like it wasn't worth the money, the premium to acquire said long-term disability, and it's happened, and it's gone the opposite direction. It's night and day, the comparisons. It's really unfortunate when that occurs and they're not protected.
Yeah, well, some of the examples that I have seen have been, there still are a number of single income households.
Yep.
You know, and once you start getting in your 50s, because those are the examples that I've seen just things start to happen.
Yeah.
And most people are making more money in their 50s than they've made at any time in their life. So to have a setback at that point, just absolutely incredible, and see people to be so happy. And a lot of the instances that I think of, the people actually did not get worse or even potentially got better, which is great news.
Well, if I can add to that, and this gets a little bit into the weeds as it relates to disability insurance, but to those that are listening or watching, it is important to dive a little bit into the details of a contract on disability insurance, because there's a lot of insurance companies out there that will do this, but the contract language and the specifics of what they're going to protect you for, you get in the definition of disability, and like I said, it's language that's legalese, but it is important as a consumer, I believe, to be educated on how those contracts pay out if you do trigger a disability, because insurance companies, believe me, will find a way out of having to pay for an indefinite period of time. So it does come back to the contract language being a specific thing to be aware of.
Yep. Obviously, timely is try to explain to people it doesn't make insurance their fault. Just think of what their business model is. Their business model is to help protect things, but when it comes down to it, ultimately, they have to make money or they would not be in business.
Right.
So it's not necessary whether trying to create these holes to trick you, but as a consumer, it falls upon you to make sure, okay, am I being protected? And hopefully it also falls on your agent,
Correct,
is making sure that you're having the things that need to be protected. So you mentioned disability insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are fortunate and some people less fortunate. In today's world, less and less and fewer people are working for public institutions or major corporations that their disability will mostly be available inexpensively through the employer. Okay. But is that the case? I mean, if I am working at a big company, generally, should I be getting my disability through my employer? What are the things that I should be looking at when my employer is offering short-term and long-term disability?
The bulk of most corporations are going to provide some level of short-term and long-term disability. And typically, you're going to see 50 to 60% of long-term disability provided. A fair amount of companies and employers are still providing it at no cost to the employee. Some are doing a cost-sharing arrangement on what the premium is for that through the company. Some are making it elected to the employees that they can acquire through the company and hopefully get it at a better price, at a bulk pricing compared to individual. Beyond that, then it's I guess the pricing is consistent with the value that you receive. So like, I can get this so cheap from my employer.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. What's the value of the actual contract you're receiving based on the price you're paying for it? And then beyond that, with a lot of our clients, we're trying to educate them on understanding what the value they're actually getting from that employer benefit. And if there are loopholes or the contract language is weak, it's trying to fill some of those loopholes depending on the specific need. It's all individualized. But then potentially going out to the private marketplace to acquire some gap fill to layer on top of that 60 or fill in for some of those gaps. And if they're not fortunate to have that through their employer, it's then essentially being an informed consumer going out to the market to find something to try to fill that lead.
Okay. Very helpful. Thank you. All right. As clients age, which insurances do you believe are more relevant at different stages of one's life?
Early on, and since we're talking about disability insurance, early on, the long-term disability, especially in their 20s, I think is a critical piece.
Sure.
Part of that is due to age. So that particular type of insurance is priced based on
probably pretty inexpensively for someone.
Pretty inexpensive for the value they can receive. And you can design it in a way where you can modify it as your income you expect is going to increase over time. But if I can lock it in at a 23, 24, 27-year-old rates, it's pretty inexpensive compared to someone coming in their 30s or 40s trying to buy this.
To show where there's some holes in my knowledge is if I got a policy in my late 20s or early 30s, 20 years later, am I still paying the original premium?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yep, absolutely. Now, you're paying on it longer than if you would have acquired it later. Of course. But the cost difference between acquiring it 10 years later is pretty significant.
It's probably pretty interesting to do an analysis like that because in my industry, it's like, how much money will I have 30 years from now if I start saving today? I can start saving a lot less today. I could save twice as much, but if I wait 10 years, I would not get to the same place. Probably a pretty cool analysis to do.
Yep. I think disability is critical early on. Now, everybody's timing is different. If they have a child and or children, that's going to be a significant increase in dependency and responsibility. And then you get in the discussion of life insurance will come into play. Mm-hmm. Once again, price the same way disability insurance. The younger you get in, the price is generally going to be cheaper compared to getting into it later. As you age, we talked about umbrella policy. I think I talk to people about doing that at any age. And medical insurance, obviously, it's something that people understand the course of having.
Umbrella insurance.
Yep.
If I'm like 20s and I ain't work jack squat, I don't got 2 cents to my name. Do I need an umbrella?
I still believe you do.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is my understanding of how the judicial component works in that is while if you're sued and they can get to certain assets that are not protected in the event of that lawsuit, my understanding is they can also wage garnish beyond that. And that wage garnishment component. So I get people that will come in and are like, well, my agent told me I don't really have much in assets, so I don't really need an umbrella. I come back counter to that. I'm like, you have an income. And if they can wage garnish it, then why would you not want to protect your future wages? So I do believe umbrella is important at any age.
Awesome. All right. I got one. It's going to be a tough one.
Okay.
All right.
Let's go.
You ready to go? As you've heard me talk about before, it's not the insurance agent's fault. It's the product of the industry.
Okay.
The way that almost the entire insurance industry compensates those who are servicing clients is by the size of the premium that is paid. So whether it's health insurance, my homes or my auto insurance, disability or life insurance, as noted, insurance agents are paid relative to the size of the premium.
Sure.
Meaning the more it costs you, the consumer, the more the agent gets paid. I think a lot of us would agree counterintuitive. I've been incredibly impressed by some agents, specifically yourself, how you stay client-centric and focus your solutions on the client first and foremost. Good question. How do insurance clients ensure they have the right agent and not the rogue one schlepping for a commission?
It's a great question. And it's been an issue in the industry probably forever, right? First thing that comes to mind, the integrity of the individual. Just human element, right? Of the person I'm talking to or I'm being introduced to, do I feel like this person is authentic, right? I think it's that gut check, if you're meeting with someone in the insurance industry, is something you really need to check on. I think you can ask questions as a consumer, asking an agent, what is the motivation of why the product you're recommending is being best for me? One of the things that I found very fascinating, I'm being facetious by using the word fascinating, I guess, but it's intriguing to me or interesting to me that, and I'm sure it's the same way with you. I'm inundated with insurance companies that are constantly trying to solicit to me to use products. Same way with investments and people that want you to use certain things for your clients. What early on in my career, I felt it was important for me to do due diligence on, all right, what is this company? What are the products they're providing? What is the value of those particular products? But quickly observed early on that the commission rates at which they pay brokers or agents, there are insurance companies out there that will pay an agent or a broker 80, 90, 100, over 100% of what the first year premiums are on a commission.
I assume that's high?
Very high.
Okay.
Very high. But in general, I found that the products behind those companies quite honestly, were not very good.
Mm-hmm.
And in comparison to insurance companies that will pay significantly less in first-year commissions, generally tend to be the companies that have a product that actually is worth something and valuable to the consumer.
Yeah.
And so I'm still constantly inundated with people that are reaching out in various forms, but we pay out such good commissions. I'm like, you do, but your products are the product.
Okay.
So I think as a consumer,
how do they work through that? Because this sounds really scary to me, because now I mentioned that term, that rogue insurance agent or salesperson is ultimately selling a box or a product.
I think as a consumer, you should ask,
Okay.
what's your first year commission on the product?
Wow. Okay.
And the percent, I mean, the agent may have a great reason for why they think this is the best product and can educate their client on why, even though the commission's high, to do such. But I think as a consumer, it's well within your right to ask, how are you making the selection to recommend this product to me? And is that commission, that first year commission, a factor in making that decision?
So, Brad, if I can follow up on that same point, is how about the one-trick pony? Yeah, what I've seen in the insurance agent, I've seen some people get very rich selling. 90% of their business is derived by selling a singular product. So to them, they're a round peg, and everybody in the world is a round hole. And if they're not, they're gonna carve them and make them into a round hole so they could jam that round peg into it. How does someone become aware if, what devices or abilities does someone have, or questions that can be asked to ultimately find out whether they're being sold something that's really inappropriate, because it's obviously that someone is out there just trying to sell the singular product that they know well and they know will compensate them well regardless of what the need is.
I think we're still a population of people that are tapping into a trusted network of friends and family and coworkers. We're a referral-based system still. And, from our own experience within Orange, we have let the community of clients speak for themselves. And, they feel their value proposition is strong. They receive value from interaction, from education, from accountability and guidance. And so people find us through word of mouth, right? This has been a great experience. I'm referring you to Brad, right? And so as a consumer, I think you can significantly reduce the risk of avoiding the one-trick pony, right?
Okay.
I'm pushing you into, this is the product, the best thing to slice bread. And, and I think people understand that, is lean on and ask those questions of people that are in your tight network of who you're working with. And do you find that relationship valuable is going to significantly reduce that risk.
So from the old days, probably not someone looking at the yellow pages and picking out an insurance agent or Googling.
We're aging ourselves by reference. Yellow pages for us. Yes. But yes, to your point, no longer the yellow pages, right? The people, I run a lot of Zoom calls from home, and there was a client a couple months ago that was like, "What? This attorney on TikTok said," and I'm like, okay. Or this insurance agent on TikTok said, and I'm like, all right, I want to be real careful about who's putting out information and what this the source and credential, and there'll be individuals putting that information out there. I still think a lot of it goes back to it's a referral based value of who within my community do I trust, and they're going to send me to someone that has a reputation that's worth.
Brad, I want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Everybody out there, I hope you were able to take some time today, get a little bit of an education as it pertains to, yes, insurance matters. It's important. But being an astute consumer is incredibly important. So thanks again for your time. Feel free to reach out to us, and we'll love to connect. Have a great day. For all podcast or guest-related questions, please email us at dlacadvisors@dlacadvisors.com. For all questions or inquiries into the services that are provided by DLAC Wealth Advisors, please contact us at elliot.singer@dlacadvisors.com. That's Elliot with 2 T's. Please also visit our description for helpful links.